Hello, everyone. I welcome you to our webinar today. My name is Lawal Elijah. I'm a Millennium Fellow, class of 2020, University of Jos, Nigeria. I'm so glad you joined us for this webinar today. This webinar is captioned Access to Quality Education, Exploring the Means, Expunging the Myths, and Enlightening Minds. This webinar is an initiative of the Advocacy for Quality Education project, and we are launching this project to enliven, to capacitate all categories of people, particularly students whose dream of accessing quality education anywhere in the world appears unachievable. The Advocacy for Quality Education project was launched under the umbrella of the Millennium Fellowship, being powered by the United Nations Academic Impact. I'm so glad you joined us for this webinar, and I'm sure that you're going to gain a lot of things, and we're going to give you the required information and the needed support for you to access quality education anywhere in the world. I'm so glad you joined us. You're welcome.
Hello there. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar for regarding to quality education. My name is James Peck. I'm actually an advocate for the SDGs, activism, and also I've been doing volunteer for over the past decade, 10 years or more. I actually been doing some volunteering for many different organizations using activism and advocacy to trying to push for many different initiatives according to the SDGs 17 goals that needs to be met by 2030, which I have planned to establish all of these goals, and so far I actually achieved at least a couple of them. One of them is SDG 16, and the another one is the SDG 7, which is quality education. As I actually prepare for these young students, especially high school teenagers and high school students, including college students, to prepare for their future careers. And I've been doing that for over 10 years. So regarding to maximizing opportunities, this is one of the things that you probably as an individual need to know how to do so, because life is all about the opportunities, and all depends on your ability to make sure that you take those opportunities. And opportunities does not come into your just out of nowhere. You need to make an effort in order to do so. And in order to do that, you need to go to webinars like this one where we have meet the people, like the speakers like myself, get to know them. That's where networking is important, because networking is an opportunity for you to meet people like myself, to get some information about what quality education is, how to be successful in education, and what are the next steps to actually get into the next steps after you finish your college or your high school years, or whichever educational field that you're trying to prepare yourself for future careers. And that's one of the most important things that you need to do out there before you leave out of college and you plan to have a successful life. But anyways, those are the things. It's just trying to get to know each other, get to know people out there, utilize this opportunity just like this webinar, trying to figure out, which career path is right for you. I'm one of those people out there who could actually guide you and navigate you on those paths. As I said yesterday, this is one of the most important paths of your career in order to make sure that you know what you're doing, and also that you have a clear path of what you want to do, because after you finish your college, that is the beginning of your career and is the beginning of your adulthood. Adulthood actually starts at the end of your high school years. Usually that's the beginning of what you wanted to do, whether you want to go to college. Depends on countries, like the United States have apprenticeship program, trade school, or community college. Not sure in Africa how the education system is set up. But unfortunately, if they have those type of educational opportunities, instead of going into a debt where you go to four-year college and get yourself into a debt, then that's where a big problem comes in, and basically you have to take the responsibility of paying those bills after you finish college. If you decide to study in the United States, because loans here and student loan debt is increasing, and I'm not saying I'm trying to discourage you from doing it, but it's one of the most terrible things that actually you could do to actually just rack up your debt, and basically you have to worry about it for the rest of your entire life until you pay it off. And I don't think that's not a good thing to have. You need to study at the same time. You don't want to worry about too much on financials, because that actually increases your stress, increases your distressability. It actually has the lack of motivation to motivate yourself to study more. And so you don't want to get into the situation. So that is where I could go in and actually help you guys to navigate your way to figure out what type of questions can be the most resourceful to you to actually ask to your counselors or college financial aid. Again, obviously, I don't know how the Africa educational system works, but if you're planning on studying abroad, make sure you need to look at your admissions schools. Depends on which country you are. You need to check them and make sure that you follow those type of guidelines to see where they are. So that's one of the important things, is to maximize opportunity by meeting people, networking people, get to know each other. Utilize LinkedIn profile. I do have my LinkedIn profile if you want to reach and contact me regarding to any educational information or career advice that you need to have a mentor with. I've been mentoring a lot of people. Just this past week, I actually went to a trust conference, which is a journalist conference, and actually one of the people who was a journalist, basically it was a lady who was asking me, whether she was asking me a career advice, whether she wants to go forward with the master's degree. I was humbled that I actually got to take on time to actually answer that question to a journalist who actually was asking about that career advice, because I think a lot of people out there, especially in this world right now, the current situation that we're living in right now, are so unprecedented uncertainty to the point that we have no idea what you want to do. That is fine. I know that adulthood, you may think that is just the end of your life if you just don't know what you want to do, but life does change all the time when you actually grow up, when you continue to get mature in everything that you do in life, because sometime later on in your life you might end up changing your careers, and that's okay. You may never know if I'm going to change my careers at any point in my life, in my 30s or 40s or 50s. But I think the most important here is to be consistent to the point that you want to stay in your career as much as possible in your same employer, because it's not, excuse me, it's not only showing that you're passionate enough to be in this job, but at the same time, you're showing employers that you're actually be a good candidate to be in this position, to be in a better place, to the point that you might get promoted later on in your career. So it's basically depends on personal preferences. But a lot of times right now in this current environment that we're in, a lot of my generation, Gen Z and millennials, tend to actually not to stay in one job for very long. It's not what it used to be in the baby boomer generation, where they used to stay the one job and stay there for the entire life until they retire at the age of 60 or 70s. But now, because of the financial crisis that hit in 2008 and 2009, that every world should be reminded of, that created a circumstance, changing circumstance to the point that they were starting to switch jobs because they know that the changing rapid of technological development and changing society, changing culture, all of those factors actually led to the point that I think the society is actually kind of moving to the point that they cannot stay in one job for very that long. So society is changing to the point where everyone is actually just moving to job, whatever they want. But again, that's getting into a caveat to the point where it cannot be good looking on your employers, but it just depends, how society is going to change, and you may never know. Job hopping can be a good thing in one day. It can be a good thing for the employers. But as of right now, obviously, we'll see what's going to happen to society in the next 10 years by 2030. So we'll see about that. And thirdly, so I think basically maximize educational opportunities, basically networking, meeting with people, informing yourself, making sure that you know what's going on in the world as of this right now, because the world is actually changing rapidly. As I said a few minutes ago, that I think the workplace is now starting to change a lot, to the point that as technology continues to develop and continues to grow, it's going to make the workplace and the environment is going to get changed more often than if it was say if it was 5 years, 10 years, taken to that point. And so I think that there's going to be a lot of shift in culture and the education plus the workplace as well. That all combines to the factor, to the point that I think we're actually reaching to the point where we're going to move into a fast-paced society, and we're going to push everything into a fast-paced movement. Workplace cultures, culture itself, the society, the technological development, and the politics, society itself, everything kind of goes along together, how it changes. And so I think this is where the informality comes in, to the point that you gotta have to be informed yourself, to the point where you need to have a catch-up game. What I mean by that is that you need to get informed as quickly as possible. Read the news, read the reliable news like BBC or CNN or I'm not sure what in Africa what the television broadcast is over there, but that's, for example, for if you were living in the United States or in the United Kingdom. But watch for those type of news sources. This is not exclusive. This is just a couple of things I know. But I think it's really important that I think all the audiences, all the students, all the young people here who are actually listening to me on this video right now, it's important to be informed. If you don't, what's going to happen is then you're going to get so far behind, to the point that I think you're gonna get lag behind, and basically you're gonna get to the point that you're not gonna get know the information to the current standards, that it's gonna make you to think that you're actually just outdated. And so I think that's why informity is another thing that you need to have in order to actually to maximize your opportunities. And so I think the opportunities and success, how this comes together, is that opportunity can come in with preparation, motivation, and pushing yourself to the limits, to the point that you can become a success as long as you meet those equations. Opportunity plus preparation equals success. As long as you have those things in place, you're probably I would say the golden ticket, or I would say you will be far ahead of others. You will actually get ahead of others than someone who's in your age group. As long as you're obviously be able to continuously to prepare yourself every single time when you are. And as long as you do that, you have the opportunity to be successful then in your peers. So that's why I think that's another thing why you have to prepare and trying to meet those goals, have an action plan, and have those type of set of plans in place so that way you know what you want to do. And that's why establishing goals in the very first place, when you even in high school or even during high school, even before you enter high school. Myself, for example, I actually been planning for this for a very long time, what I actually wanted to do, but I actually got to change a lot in ways because I thought politics was my thing, but unfortunately, because of the current situation, that kind of changed my mind to the point that, you know what, I think business, something related to management was actually my thing, and that's why I'm actually currently working in the corporate sector. And so I think currently at this point, that's why my goals could change at any moment or any years, and that's why it could happen to any of you, and so that's okay. It depends on the situation, environment, whatever you're in. It could change at any moment. So that's a personal example of what I actually been through. And so that's why it's important to have an action plan in place and basically laid out the maps of what you want to do. Now, if any of those could potentially say that you don't want to do something, then you could just cross out the list and basically just narrow it down and see which jobs or which career is actually best for you. And it also depends on your personalities. You also need to look into what your personalities are, because that actually is the biggest factor of what you actually wanted to do in your career. And so I actually pointed out a lot of things to talk about to maximize the opportunities and share my personal experience. And again, I will actually continue to share my personal experience along the way as I continue to have the discussion with all of you. It's actually really hard for me to do this in a pre-recorded video instead of live video, because live video I'm much more influential and talk much more naturally than if it was pre-recorded videos. I have never done pre-recorded videos in my entire life since I've been doing some YouTube in the past, but unfortunately it was not that popular. But just move on forward. So I think another thing that maximizing opportunities of education is to handle responsibilities. And what I mean by that is that you as an individual need to learn how to do this on your own by independent. Handle responsibility, that's what it is, to try to know how to navigate your own on yourself. Know how to do this on your own, how to be independent, and basically how to figure out yourself. Know your personalities, know your traits, basically your behavior and everything. All of this just kind of ties together what the handle responsibility is, and what it is basically it's showing you who you are as a person. And a lot of times when I go to meetings or when I go to a conference, and basically when they have a discussion like a regular discussion, a lot of times, they were saying, who you are as a person, who you are as a person, to know that other side of the people that don't know you, that do not know you or don't know you as a person, because, a lot of times, typically for me, I actually try to be much more honest as possible, because that's actually my traits and my personalities, to trying to be honest as possible. And that's why this leadership, this type of webinar, the quality education, I'm trying to be much more honest to all of you, because the problem here is that if you go to any other webinars or conferences, people are just tend to be, like, even speakers themselves tend to be much more sugarcoated and not telling you in a harsh reality. That I think because they don't tell you the harsh reality, or they're trying to throw you as a narrative that is kind of putting the sugarcoating and not be much more realistic. What's going to happen is basically what's going to happen to your mentality in your psychologically is that you're actually not preparing yourself for a harsh reality or in the real life or in what's going to happen in the real world. And because a lot of that has to be dealt with at the beginning of your childhood, in my personal experiences that I obviously, both of my parents actually kind of disciplined me a lot, and because the real reason why they did this, there is a reason. I know because I'm from Asian background, Korean culture background, that I think if you know anything about South Korean culture, there are much more pride and obedience and much more culture influence based on the Confucianism thing, and based on that, they're much more taking pride in their child a lot, and I'm not sure if that's kind of similar to. Yeah, so I think because all of those type of personal experiences that I had, I think that's what led me to prepare for discipline and preparation and success in my life. Even though I have some obstacles and downsides that I had right now, that I've been going through for the past 10 years, I think all of this actually kind of prepared me for any type of struggle or obstacles that can be coming in my way. I think that's why I think the beginning of the childhood, if you're in your adulthood, if you're trying to get married or something, or have a child or something, the best important thing that you have to do as a parent is that you need to obviously be an adult. At the same time, you need to take and learn how to take care of a child. This is where I think this is where education and child's ability is really important, because if you don't have the ability to take care of your child in a really much more disciplinary way, what's going to happen is then they're going to take freedom for granted, and basically they're not going to take education seriously. And so because of that, what's going to happen is, and because of that, you're potentially, the child is less likely to be uneducated, and then everything's going to get later on, it's going to get passed on to the future generation, and so on and so forth. And that's why I think it's so important to have really a good education, not just by studying in school. At the same time, including the child's education at school, they also need to learn how to be disciplinary, how to be educated at home as well, because all of that goes along with the types of behavior, personality traits. All of that adds it up to the factor, to the point that it actually will pay it off and get rewarded in society. And that's why a lot of people are just are so obviously interested, to the point that it's like kind of saying, oh, this child actually got disciplined and she was raised, or he or she got raised well. You want to hear those type of things from your child as a father or a mother, because it's basically saying that you paid off as a reward. You basically are rewarded for making sure that you educate your child very well. And that is why it's one of the most important things to have as you're educating your child at home, at the same time while in school. And that's why it's so important to have that responsibility, and that's what it is. And lastly, about meeting people regarding to it, including jobs. I think basically having a job is not a bad thing. Going to a job, basically having work, it's really one of the most important things that you'll learn, because as long as you learn how to do the basics and everything, and how to do the work in the workplace, you will get rewarded. At the same time, you will get recognition from your employer or your bosses or supervisors. As long as you have that in place, and also you get to meet with people who you're thinking you never met before, and you may never know if that's superior, your boss or supervisors, gonna be the one who's gonna get retired later on, or is that person, your boss, will be the person that probably will help you in your life, or something along the way that could potentially bring you opportunity. And that is where you probably need to treat your boss or superior a really good morale, just in case if something happens to them, or a promotion happens, or suddenly an organization needs to have a huge change in the organization within the human resources, like personnel change. And I think that's why having a good behavior all the time is really important, especially in the workplace, because you may never know what's going to be thrown at, what opportunities can be thrown into you. So that's why it's so important to have that type of confidence, have the good behavior and morale. And so that was one of the things that having a good work, educated, quality educated, good behavior, teaching a good child education at home and at school, all of this can create an opportunity and potentially will bring a success to the family, to the parents, to the child, including the future generation abroad, including the future generation in the years to come. And also that will bring society into economic development. It'll also bring prosperity. It will also bring a good quality education, which could potentially bring a societal changes, rapid economic development that will potentially be a good society. And having a good quality education, meaning everybody will be a good morale and have a good, better place to live, and also make the world a better place. That will end my speech here. I'll end it here. I'll see you probably if you have any more questions regarding to quality education in personal or professional or in educational settings. Please reach me out in the chat, and I'll just continue to mentor with you, where I give you advice on anything. Again, this is send me through the WhatsApp chat. Thank you for everyone to be participating in this webinar. Great to meet all of you out there. I know we cannot do it in live, but it was a great pleasure to meet every single one of you out there who are really have this passionate to have a quality education in your country and abroad, who are willing to be the future generation for positive change makers. I appreciate for everyone to attend this meeting. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I know that today is our last day of our webinar and everything is coming to an end. But is this the end of our webinar? Is this the end? Is this the end? Well, I'll tell you good news. Today is not the end of the day. As we could share more resources about quality education and everything about what it takes to become a better educator and have a successful in life, we will continue to share our resources. Also, you could contact me directly through WhatsApp chat if you have any questions or answers that you're concerned of, and I will gladly answer for you even after this webinar ends. So you could use me as your guide or resources to continue on your journey to become a better, successful life and educator. Now, a bit about myself again. Let me introduce myself. My name is James. I've actually been doing advocacy, activism, and also volunteer for over a decade through many different organizations, from Habitat for Humanity, Amnesty International, Junior Achievement, and everything other organization elsewhere as well. I've been doing a lot of different projects and mentorship with different organizations. This year is also the same. I actually gotten busy. So regarding to how to maximize opportunity, also how to achieve your education through success, is basically a hard one. It can be a lot of different things, but I'll tell you that if you know how to actually take education seriously and also overcome any obstacles in your education, schools, or in your life, you will be better prepared to be successful in life. I'll tell you a couple of things to be mindful of yourself on how to be a successful educator, and also how to be successful in your life. First, I'd like to tell you that you could use an online resources, books, or libraries to try to figure out what you wanted to do and to find out what your research is about in school, and also be able to figure out what you really actually wanted to do in your life. And includes your career as well. You could use your library, you could use the internet. All of these opportunities are actually available to you, so you utilize them and use them as your resources, because they're there for you to make sure that you're being successful in life. You could actually look up a scholarship in your online and try to figure out which scholarship is actually fit for you and also meet the requirements. It depends on your school, depends on your region, depends on if you just study abroad, and you might have to look into visa requirements. All of these are so important for you to actually consider yourself, whether you want to get a scholarship and go study abroad, or if you want to stay domestically at your home and decide you want to study in your home country. whatever it might be, you will have the opportunity to try to make sure that you'll be successful in academics and be an overachiever and excellence in academics. Another thing, regarding to going to grad school and everything, that depends on your personal preferences. Again, it all depends on your financial circumstances. But again, fellowship and scholarship program will help you to actually ease the burden on you, obviously, to make sure that you get a great college education, if it's study abroad or if it's in your home country. Again, it depends on your regulation, it depends on your circumstances, depends on admission requirements. You may have to be able to research that up so that way you know what to expect and be prepared for yourself to actually get it on time. My advice for this is to apply as early as possible so that way you have a lot of time, and also be prepared for yourself if there's any obstacles or if there's any hiccups along the way, because sometimes technical glitches or any other problems could happen along the way. So I'll tell you that those are the important key things to do to try to make sure that you have the ability to be able to be successful in academics in your personal and professional life. Secondly, regard to being successful in academics excellence, is to make sure that if you decided that this is a particular career that you wanted to do, make sure to actually research and follow up on either your teachers or your professors or counselors to see if this is the right career fit for you. Again, that requires dedication, time, and also challenge yourself to actually make sure that this is one of the careers that you wanted to do. And so, regarding to that, make sure obviously you talk with your professors, communicate with them effectively and daily to see if there's any fellowship program or scholarship program that helps you to actually cover the cost of your financial education. Because this, again, I told earlier, this is one of the things that is important for you to be less stressful on finances and you have more time to be studying. Another recommendation I would also say when you go into college is to make sure that you consider yourself as multidisciplinary. What I mean by that multidisciplinary is to choose courses between liberal arts and sciences all together. Be able to learn every different subjects will actually help you successful in life, because in my personal life, I actually tend to be much more multidisciplinary and generalist. These are the people that we definitely need an organization where you have the ability to be successful and succeed in any type of careers in any area, so that way you could prepare yourself to be in a leadership position, which a lot of organizations out there desperately need you for being a multidisciplinary. So that's one of the things that I do to try to make sure that I prepare myself for a top executive senior leadership position if I decided somebody needs to call me up and decide to be in that position anytime at any moment. So that's where preparation and success comes along together, be multidisciplinary. Another thing, you can also take a chance to actually get a job or intern or fellowship program, or basically getting an apprenticeship program, or actually even get a summer job. That's one of the things that you could do during the summertime if you actually have a lot of time for you to be staying at home and basically do nothing. But that is another way to actually motivate yourself and trying to get yourself out there in the real world to trying to figure out which skills is right for you and which skills is not right for you, so that way you have the ability to know what your traits are and what your skills are and personalities. So that way you could gather up all of those evidence and also your mindsets to actually figure out what you wanted to do. That is really important later on when you trying to figure out which career is right for you. And thirdly, make sure you connect with other people, like like-minded people, intellectuals. These are the people who can actually be the resource for you. Again, I'm actually here. I'm actually the resource for all of you. If you have any questions or concerns regarding to quality education or any other things other than education, such as your personal or professional or your career advice, you could actually reach me through WhatsApp chat, and basically we'll have a conversation regarding to what is your next step, and obviously I will gladly try to get mentored through you all the way till whenever you need me. So So I will continue to provide that, and if you want to reach me, go through the WhatsApp chat, and I will gladly obviously be your resource and mentor. I really appreciate for everyone to participate in this webinar. I know it is not that easy. Not easy for me because we're in a different time zone. But I'm thankful and also gratitude for everyone to be participating in this webinar. It is not easy. And I'm really thankful that everyone participated in this webinar. Thank you for all your time, and I appreciate for everyone to stay safe, and also be hope that everyone will be happy and also be able to change the world through positive mindset, and also making sure that you all stay healthy. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.